The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was reviewing design proposals in my downtown Chicago penthouse. After 10 years of complete silence, my mother's voice cracked through the phone like a broken record. She was crying, begging me to help Amanda, who was facing eviction with her 2 kids. As I stared out at the city lights I had worked so hard to afford, the irony was not lost on me. 10 years ago, they made it clear I was disposable. Now they needed something from me. Before I share what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from. Hit that like button if you have ever felt invisible in your own family, and subscribe. Because trust me, this story gets much more complicated than you think. Growing up in suburban Ohio, our family appeared picture perfect from the outside. Dad worked as an accountant at a mid-sized firm, while Mom spent her days as a registered nurse at the local hospital. We lived in a modest 3-bedroom house, with a white picket fence that screamed, American Dream. But behind that facade lived a truth that would shape every decision I made for the rest of my life. Amanda, my sister, who was 3 years older, had always been the golden child. Everything about her seemed to sparkle in our parents' eyes. She was naturally beautiful with long blonde hair that caught sunlight like spun gold, while my brown hair always seemed to fall flat no matter what I tried. She excelled at cheerleading, maintaining perfect grades, and had a social calendar that kept our family phone ringing constantly. Meanwhile, I found solace in books and spent hours sketching in my room activities that were often dismissed as antisocial behavior. The comparisons started early and never stopped. Why cannot you be more like your sister? Why cannot you apply yourself like Amanda does? Why cannot you be more outgoing? These questions became the soundtrack of my childhood, each one chipping away at my self-worth like water eroding stone. When Amanda made varsity cheerleading as a sophomore, our refrigerator became a shrine to her accomplishments. My art projects and honor roll certificates found their way to the junk drawer within days. The bullying began subtly disguised as sisterly pranks that our parents dismissed with fond smiles. Amanda would accidentally bump into me, sending my carefully organized homework flying across the kitchen floor. She would borrow my favorite books and return them with pages torn or missing, claiming she was sorry, but accidents happen. When I started keeping a sketchbook, she would flip through it without permission and critique my drawings with brutal honesty that left me questioning whether I had any talent at all. As we grew older, her tactics became more calculated and cruel. She discovered that hiding my belongings would send me into a frantic panic, especially when school projects were due. My completed assignments would mysteriously disappear from my backpack, forcing me to explain to teachers why I had nothing to turn in. Amanda would watch with innocent eyes as I received zeros, sometimes offering to help me look for my missing work, with such convincing concern that even I began to doubt my own memory. One particularly devastating incident occurred when I was 13. I had saved my allowance for months to buy a professional set of colored pencils that cost $40. They were my most prized possession, representing hours of extra chores and careful budgeting. Amanda knew how much they meant to me, which made what happened next feel especially vindictive. She took them to school for an art project and claimed she lost them on the bus. When I found them weeks later in her friend's locker, broken and scattered, Amanda insisted it was an honest mistake and that I was being dramatic about cheap art supplies. The financial favoritism became impossible to ignore as we entered our teenage years. Amanda received private cheerleading coaching, piano lessons, and tennis instruction that cost hundreds of dollars each month. When I expressed interest in learning guitar, I was told that money was tight and we could not afford everything. Christmas mornings highlighted this disparity with painful clarity. Amanda would unwrap the latest iPhone designer clothes and expensive jewelry, while I received books from thrift stores and clearance items that had been marked down multiple times. My 16th birthday fell on the same weekend as Amanda's regional cheerleading competition. The entire family packed up and drove 4 hours to watch her perform for 3 minutes on a gymnasium floor. My birthday dinner consisted of fast food eaten in a hotel room while Amanda soaked in a bubble bath, preparing for the next day's events. When I mentioned feeling forgotten, Mom patted my shoulder and promised we would celebrate properly when we got home. That celebration never materialized because Amanda had made it to nationals and needed new uniforms. The isolation I felt within my own family was suffocating. I began spending entire afternoons at the public library, partly to escape the toxic atmosphere at home, but mostly because the librarians treated me with kindness I rarely experienced elsewhere. Mrs. Peterson, the head librarian, would recommend books based on my interests and actually listened when I talked about the stories I loved. For the first time, I felt seen and valued for who I was, rather than compared to who I was not. During this period, I started questioning everything about my identity and place in the family. Late at night, I would lie awake wondering if I had been adopted and my parents simply forgot to mention it. How else could I explain feeling like such an outsider in my own home? How else could I understand why Amanda's achievements were celebrated while mine were overlooked? The painful truth was simpler and somehow worse. I was their biological daughter, but I was not their priority. This realization sparked something inside me that would ultimately become my salvation. If I could not earn love and attention through conventional means, I would prove my worth through academic excellence. I threw myself into my studies with laser focus, determined to achieve something so impressive that my parents would have no choice but to acknowledge my value. My grades climbed steadily, and I began researching colleges and scholarship opportunities with the methodical precision of someone planning an escape route. High school brought new challenges as Amanda's popularity reached legendary status, while I remained firmly planted in the background as Amanda's weird sister. She had perfected the art of social manipulation, surrounding herself with a group of equally beautiful and cruel friends who treated me like an unwelcome audience to their perfectly curated lives. Walking down the hallways became an exercise in humiliation, as Amanda would make subtle comments about my appearance or social awkwardness within earshot of her friends who would laugh on cue. The academic and extracurricular opportunities that should have been mine were systematically undermined by Amanda's influence and our parents' unwavering support of her version of events. When I expressed interest in joining the drama club, Amanda convinced our parents that theatre was a waste of time that would distract from my studies. When the drama teacher personally invited me to audition for the lead in our spring production, my parents forced me to decline because Amanda had suggested I needed to focus exclusively on maintaining my grade point average for college applications. My part-time job at a local bookstore became my sanctuary and my path to independence. Working 15 hours a week, I slowly accumulated savings with the dream of buying a laptop for college applications and coursework. Every dollar was carefully tracked in a notebook I kept hidden in my dresser drawer. After 8 months of careful saving, I had accumulated $800, enough to purchase a reliable computer that would serve me through my senior year and beyond. The theft happened on a Thursday afternoon while I was at work. Amanda had convinced our parents to take her shopping for homecoming accessories, and during their trip she had spotted a designer handbag that cost exactly $800. When they returned home, Amanda was carrying the bag with pride, while our parents beamed at their generous purchase for their deserving daughter. My money was gone, transferred from my hiding place to fund Amanda's latest desire, without anyone bothering to ask permission or even inform me of the transaction. The confrontation that followed revealed the depth of my family's dysfunction and their willingness to sacrifice my well-being for Amanda's happiness. When I demanded an explanation for the missing money, Amanda burst into tears and claimed I was making false accusations because I was jealous of her new bag. She insisted she had no idea what I was talking about and suggested that I had probably spent the money myself and forgotten about it. Our parents, faced with choosing between Amanda's tears and my fury, made their preference clear. I was forced to apologize to Amanda for suggesting she was capable of theft. I was lectured about the importance of family harmony and told that making false accusations was a serious character flaw that needed immediate correction. The $800 was never returned because Amanda needed the bag for upcoming social events, and our parents felt that demanding its return would be unfair punishment for something she clearly had not done. I was expected to smile, apologize, and pretend that losing 8 months of savings was simply a misunderstanding. Returning to work the next day required every ounce of strength I possessed. Mrs. Chen, the bookstore owner, noticed my red-rimmed eyes and asked if everything was okay at home. For the first time, I told someone about my family situation, expecting judgment or disbelief. Instead, she listened with the compassion of someone who understood family dysfunction firsthand. She offered me additional hours and a small raise, explaining that good employees deserve support when life became difficult. Senior year brought the ultimate test of my resilience when Amanda decided to sabotage my college applications. She had been accepted to the local community college with plans to major in something related to fashion or communications, but my acceptances to several prestigious universities threatened to overshadow her achievements once again. The night before my early admission deadline for State University, Amanda accessed my laptop and systematically deleted my completed essays, changed submission deadlines in my calendar, and corrupted the files containing my portfolio of artwork. I discovered the sabotage at 11:30 that night when I planned to submit my final application. Months of work had vanished, leaving me with less than 12 hours to recreate essays that had taken weeks to perfect. I worked through the night, fueled by rage and determination, rewriting my personal statement and supplemental essays from memory while fighting exhaustion and despair. The artwork portfolio was irreplaceable, forcing me to submit applications without the creative component that had been my strongest selling point. When I confronted Amanda the next morning, she laughed and called it a harmless prank. She claimed I was overreacting about something that could easily be fixed, ignoring the fact that deadlines had already passed and my chances at several schools were completely ruined. Our parents, exhausted by what they perceived as constant fighting between sisters, demanded that we stop arguing over nothing and focus on our respective futures. The word nothing echoed in my head for days, perfectly summarizing how my family viewed my dreams and ambitions. Graduation night should have been a celebration of my achievements and the beginning of my independence. Despite Amanda's sabotage, I had received a full academic scholarship to State University, covering tuition room board and books for 4 years. This accomplishment represented validation of every hour I had spent studying, while my family celebrated Amanda's mediocrity. I had proven that hard work and determination could overcome systematic neglect and active sabotage. The family celebration that evening focused entirely on Amanda's acceptance to community college, as if enrollment in a local 2-year program was equivalent to earning a full scholarship to a prestigious university. My parents toasted Amanda's bright future, while my scholarship letter remained unmentioned on the kitchen counter. When relatives called to congratulate our family on graduation night, they were told about Amanda's college plans, while my achievements were briefly mentioned as an afterthought, if they were mentioned at all. That night, sitting in my childhood bedroom surrounded by boxes of belongings I would soon take to college, I made a decision that would define the rest of my life. I was done trying to earn love and recognition from people who were determined to withhold both. I was done sacrificing my emotional well-being for the sake of family harmony that only existed when I remained silent about my mistreatment. I was done being the family scapegoat whose pain was consistently minimized and whose achievements were perpetually overshadowed. Leaving home at 18 felt like emerging from an underground tunnel into brilliant sunlight. The morning I packed my belongings into a single suitcase and 3 cardboard boxes, no one offered to help or express sadness about my departure. Amanda was sleeping in after a graduation party, and our parents were busy preparing for their own celebration plans that did not include me. My final text message to the family group chat was simple and definitive: I am starting college. Do not expect regular contact. The dormitory at State University became my first real home, a place where my presence was welcomed rather than tolerated. My roommate Janet was a psychology major from California who possessed the rare combination of intelligence and empathy that made instant friendship possible. She listened to my family stories without judgment and shared her own experiences with toxic relatives, helping me understand that my situation was not unique or shameful. For the first time in my life, I felt truly understood and accepted. College opened doors I had never imagined possible. Joining the art club connected me with other creative students who appreciated my work and encouraged my growth as a designer. Professor Williams, who taught Introduction to Graphic Design, recognized my potential and recommended advanced courses that challenged me to develop skills I never knew I possessed. My part-time job at a local coffee shop provided not only financial independence, but also a supportive work environment where my contributions were valued and rewarded. The freedom to pursue my interests without interference or criticism was intoxicating. I spent hours in the computer lab, learning design software, creating digital artwork that reflected my personal vision rather than what others expected me to produce. My professors began featuring my work in student exhibitions, and classmates sought my help with their own projects. The validation I had craved from my family was flowing freely from mentors and peers who recognized talent when they saw it. Academic success followed naturally when I was no longer fighting for basic recognition and respect at home. My grade point average remained above 3.8 throughout college, earning me spots on the dean's list and eligibility for prestigious internships. The graphic design program became increasingly competitive as I progressed through advanced coursework, but the challenges felt manageable compared to the psychological warfare I had endured at home. Every assignment was an opportunity to prove myself on merit rather than family politics. During my junior year, I secured an internship at a prominent marketing agency in Chicago that specialized in branding for Fortune 500 companies. The internship required working 60 hours per week while maintaining full-time student status, but the experience was invaluable preparation for my future career. Senior designers mentored me through complex projects, teaching me industry standards and professional practices that would give me a significant advantage in the job market. Graduation arrived with honors and multiple job offers from agencies that had been impressed with my internship performance. I chose a position at a boutique design firm in downtown Chicago that offered creative freedom and opportunities for rapid advancement. The starting salary was modest, but the potential for growth was unlimited for someone willing to work hard and continuously improve their skills. My 20s became a decade of focused professional development and personal growth. Working 70-hour weeks was exhausting, but exhilarating as I contributed to campaigns for major brands and built a portfolio that showcased my versatility and creativity. My colleagues respected my work ethic and creative vision, leading to promotions and increased responsibilities that came with substantial salary increases. At 25, I was promoted to art director, overseeing a team of junior designers and managing client relationships that generated millions of dollars in revenue for the agency. The promotion came with a salary that finally allowed me to rent a beautiful apartment in a trendy neighborhood and begin saving for future investments. More importantly, it represented recognition of my value as a professional and validation of the choices I had made to prioritize my career over toxic family relationships. Romance entered my life naturally when I met Marcus at a professional networking event downtown. He was a corporate attorney with his own practice, someone who understood the demands of building a career and appreciated my ambition rather than feeling threatened by it. Our relationship developed slowly and steadily, built on mutual respect and shared goals rather than drama and conflict. For the first time, I experienced a partnership where my success was celebrated rather than sabotaged. By age 28, I had achieved every goal I had set for myself as a desperate teenager planning her escape. My graphic design consulting firm was thriving, serving clients across multiple industries with a team of talented designers who shared my vision for excellence. The penthouse apartment I purchased in downtown Chicago represented not just financial success, but emotional freedom from the family that had tried to limit my potential. Every morning, I woke up in a space I had created and paid for with my own achievements. The call from my mother shattered the peaceful Tuesday evening I had been enjoying in my home office. 10 years of silence had not prepared me for the sound of her voice, cracked with desperation and heavy with tears she expected would manipulate me into compliance. Amanda was in serious financial trouble, facing eviction with her 2 young children after losing her job and going through a messy divorce. Our parents had already exhausted their retirement savings trying to help her, and they needed me to provide the financial assistance that would save their golden child from the consequences of her own choices. As my mother sobbed through the phone, painting a picture of Amanda as a victim of circumstances beyond her control, I found myself remembering the scared 16-year-old girl who had watched her college fund disappear into Amanda's designer handbag. The irony was almost laughable. The daughter they had dismissed and ignored was now their only hope for solving the financial crisis created by the daughter they had prioritized and protected. The family that had made me feel worthless now needed me to prove my worth through my bank account. My mother's desperation was palpable as she detailed Amanda's current situation. 2 children under the age of 5, no reliable income, an ex-husband who provided sporadic child support when he remembered, and mounting bills that threatened to result in homelessness. The picture she painted was genuinely heartbreaking, designed to appeal to whatever familial loyalty might still exist in my heart. She spoke about her grandchildren as if I had some obligation to rescue them from their mother's poor decisions and their grandparents' enabling behavior. The manipulation techniques that had controlled me throughout childhood were still present in her voice, subtle guilt trips wrapped in desperate pleas for understanding. She reminded me of how well I was doing, as if my success created an automatic obligation to share with family members who had contributed nothing to my achievements. She spoke about Amanda's children as innocent victims who deserved help regardless of their mother's past behavior, a valid point that she hoped would override my logical objections to providing financial assistance. But 10 years of therapy and personal growth had given me tools to recognize manipulation and the strength to resist emotional blackmail. As my mother continued her plea, I found myself analyzing her words rather than feeling overwhelmed by them. Every phrase was calculated to produce guilt, every pause designed to give me time to imagine those precious grandchildren facing homelessness because their successful aunt was too selfish to help family in need. The conversation that followed was perhaps the most difficult but necessary discussion of my adult life. I listened to my mother's complete presentation before responding, allowing her to reveal the full extent of their desperation and the assumptions underlying their request. When she finished speaking, I took a deep breath and began sharing truths that had been buried under years of forced family harmony and conflict avoidance. I reminded my mother of specific incidents from my childhood, the stolen college fund, the sabotaged applications, the years of emotional abuse that they had dismissed as sibling rivalry. I described the isolation I had felt as the family scapegoat, whose pain was consistently minimized, while Amanda's every desire was treated as a family emergency. I explained how their favoritism had damaged my self-esteem and forced me to build my confidence and success entirely without family support. My mother's response revealed that nothing had changed in the decades since I left home. She insisted that childhood conflicts were ancient history that should be forgiven and forgotten in the face of current family needs. She accused me of holding grudges and being petty about situations that everyone else had moved past. She suggested that my success obligated me to help less fortunate family members, regardless of how they had treated me in the past. The conversation reached its climax when my mother played her final card, family loyalty, and the importance of being the bigger person. She argued that helping Amanda would demonstrate my maturity and capacity for forgiveness, while refusing would prove that I was still the selfish, difficult child they remembered. The emotional manipulation was so transparent and desperate that I almost felt sorry for her, but not enough to change my decision. My response was calm, but final. I explained that family is not defined by shared genetics, but by mutual love, respect, and support through difficult times. I pointed out that they had never offered me the assistance they were now demanding from me, and that their current desperation did not erase years of systematic emotional abuse and neglect. I made it clear that I did not owe them anything after they had failed to provide basic emotional support when I needed it most. The phone call ended with my mother's angry declaration that I would regret my selfishness and that she had been wrong to expect better from someone who had always been difficult and ungrateful. Her words confirmed that I had made the correct decision. These people had not changed, learned from their mistakes, or developed any genuine understanding of how their behavior had affected me. They simply needed money and expected me to provide it based on biological relationships that meant nothing without emotional connection. After hanging up and blocking their numbers, I sat in my beautiful apartment surrounded by evidence of everything I had accomplished without their help or support. The healing journey that began when I left home at 18 had prepared me for this moment, teaching me that setting boundaries is not selfish but necessary for mental health. Family does not automatically deserve unconditional support, especially when they have provided conditional love based on compliance rather than genuine care. Marcus found me that evening sitting quietly on our balcony, processing the emotions stirred up by contact with my past. I told him about the phone call and my decision to refuse financial help, expecting him to question my choice or suggest compromise solutions. Instead, he held my hand and reminded me that I had built a real family with people who supported my dreams rather than sabotaging them. Janet, my college roommate, who had become my lifelong best friend, sent similar messages of support when I shared the story with her. The final realization that brought me peace was understanding that true wealth is not measured in dollars, but in relationships built on mutual respect and genuine love. My biological family had taught me what family should not be: conditional, competitive, and emotionally destructive. The family I had chosen and built through friendships, professional relationships, and romantic partnership had shown me what family could be: supportive, encouraging, and genuinely caring about my well-being and success. Sometimes, the greatest act of self-love is knowing when to walk away from people who consistently choose to hurt you rather than heal with you. Some relationships cannot be repaired with phone calls and financial assistance, because the foundation was never solid to begin with. My family had made their choice about my value years ago, and my choice to protect myself from further harm was both appropriate and necessary for continued growth. I may have lost the family I was born into, but I built the life and relationships I deserved, and that more than any amount of money is true wealth. What would you have done in my situation? Have you ever had to choose between family obligations and your own well-being? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because I would love to hear your perspective on this difficult decision. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming family trauma and building the life you deserve. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that it is okay to prioritize your own mental health over family expectations. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you deserve relationships that lift you up rather than tear you down. Until next time, take care of yourselves and the people who truly care about you.